Oh man, it's like I don't know. I don't know if this even is going to work today. I mean, I want it to. I do. But I'm just so nervous. There's so much pressure, and there's so many people depending on us delivering a good program. I just don't know. Maybe we just call it off. Maybe we just stop for today. Stop for the day and just go to another time. There's no reason to put this kind of pressure. I wish I had someone who could just kind of help me work through what it is that I'm wrestling with. I don't know. Oh, Abby, it's so
Matthew,
good to see you.
Matthew, I was just listening to you, and I just want to say it's okay. It's very okay. Who is your guest today? Let's start with that.
Okay, that makes me smile. I have Blythe Brumleve. I love Blythe, and I can't wait. She's phenomenal. She's phenomenal.
She's great. She's so great. When do you guys go live?
A couple minutes. I don't know. Not too long from now.
Okay. Well, there will come a day, Matthew, when the courage of Matthew fails. But today, this is not that day.
You're right. This is not that day. Abby, I feel inspired. I feel excited. I feel electric. I feel like I might have that one ring. Abby, you have done an amazing job. Thank you for cheering me up. I really appreciate that.
I'm always here when you need me.
Well, thank you as always. Everybody, welcome to the show. We're back. We have some incredible stuff in store for you. And I'm so excited for all the people who have tuned in for this very live, very real, very at you broadcast. When it's done, we will take the audio version and have that converted onto a podcast so you can listen to this on your way home. You won't be able to ask live Q&A. Well, you can, but no one's probably going to answer you. But for today, we have a stupendous guest. I have Blythe Brumleve, and Blythe is somebody who I have admired for a very long time. She is the creator and founder of Digital Dispatch. You need to learn more about Digital Dispatch. But the thing that Blythe and I really do share is a love for things that are amazing. And when I say things that are amazing, I mean Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings. We'll talk all about those things and so much more. But first, let me bring in my very special guest, Blythe.
What an intro. Hands down.
Abby
Well done.
and I, we've been practicing and rehearsing. We get up at 6 a.m. and we go out there and we try it. How are you doing?
And she had literally one of the best speeches of all time in movie history. And she was using that. So A+ points, A+ intro.
She is absolutely phenomenal. I am beyond excited to have you. So I have been following your career for some time through LinkedIn and more recently Twitter. So tell our guests, our audience that's watching at home and listening on their podcast systems, who is Blythe Brumleve?
Oh, who is Blythe? Okay. I was born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. I am a lifelong Jaguars fan. Shout out
I'm
to
so sorry
Christy.
to
I
hear
see
that.
her shouting out the Steelers. The Jaguars actually have the only winning record against the Steelers. That's the only winning record that we have against any football team, really. So lifelong Jaguars fan. I've also been a lifelong sports and entertainment fan. I started off as a sports entertainment blogger back in 2007. Used that to kind of parlay into also an executive assistant job at a 3PL. So I was working as an executive assistant at a 3PL. My boss kind of found out what I was doing on the side with the sports and entertainment blog. So he pretty much just said, hey, why don't you take over all of our marketing and all of our website presence and things like that.
Wow.
So that was really how I was sort of just pushed into this environment of marketing in the logistics and freight world. I was lucky enough to work for that company for 5 years until it unfortunately closed down. And then when it closed down, but that was when I was able to sort of parlay that into other job opportunities. I ended up becoming editor-in-chief of a local magazine, working in local radio broadcasting, TV broadcasting. I didn't go to school for any of this, sort of just learned right through Google University or YouTube University. And then when that company unfortunately closed, they started up another company. So I ended up going back and working for my boss again, but it was kind of short-lived because he pretty much said, he was like, it's time for me to push you out of the nest. Like, it's time for you to leave your safeguards and go do your own thing. And so that's where my company, Brumleve Brands, Digital Dispatch, all of those little, just, I don't want to call them side hustles, because Digital Dispatch is the company that I primarily focus on now, helping freight companies build a better website and measure their marketing efforts online. So that's kind of like the short end of the story. But then, because of Digital Dispatch, was able to secure a gig with Freightwaves, hosting Cyberly once a week.
Right.
And then also I'm serving on the board of the TMSA. Shout out to Jennifer. I see her in here too. So yeah, I mean, it really, like, a sports and entertainment blog led to all of this. And it's kind of cool to be able to join you today and be able to, kind of talk about all of those things that sort of led me down this career path.
Did you know when you first entered transportation that you would never get to leave it? Like, did you know that going in, or did anyone warn you about that?
No, I got started because I always swore to myself that I would never sit at a desk full time and work a job. I was always a waitress. I was always like a cart girl. At the golf courses. And I just never wanted to sit still in a job role, much less ever be on camera. That was never in the plans. And the only reason I took the executive assistant role at a 3PL was because I knew that I would be in and out of the office all day. And then it just kind of evolved from there. My boss at the time, he was a former truck driver who turned into the company owner, ended up buying out everybody, became owner of that company. And so he really saw, I think, sort of like that mentee role or mentorship role. And he really funded a lot. He would send me to all of these different training programs on inbound marketing, like HubSpot conferences, social media conferences. I mean, we really were ahead of the game. And, it's still kind of sad that company closed down. But without that company closing, I probably wouldn't be talking to all of you today.
Well, let me ask you. So you said you waited tables. I waited tables at Texas Roadhouse. I cut my teeth doing retail at KB Toys and Best Buy. Where did you wait tables at? What was that experience like?
Oh, gosh. Okay. So
Was it amazing? Was it amazing?
Yes. I'm a firm believer that I think that everybody should work in some kind of service industry, just so they understand the
100%,
insane
100%.
demands from different customers. And you learn how to talk to people. You learn how to start conversations with perfect strangers. Having a waitressing job really helped me go to networking events, being able to strike up a conversation with people that I wouldn't know otherwise. Also upselling. Hey, if you like this item, you might like this item too. So
let's get that extended warranty on that margarita.
Yes. There wasn't that much, as far as like gross margins in the margarita or drink selling, right? I should probably say the golf cart business, but the golf cart business is where you earn a lot of your money. So if you're waitresses, servers out there looking to earn a little bit extra cash, being a cart girl is where it's at.
That sounds phenomenal. So I still have the toys that when I worked at KB Toys, I would have the opportunity to get these at a discount. So this is Sauron. I think you familiar with Sauron.
Yes.
On his right hand, you see there is you can't really see it here. It's got the Ring of Power. And we're going to talk, a lot of people in the comments are really interested in us getting right into Lord of the Rings, but we're going to keep teasing them. They're not going to get that yet. They're not going to get us talking about the thing that they want the most. We're going to delay that gratification. So you go to transition to Freightwaves. Did you plan on doing a live show? Were you doing live stuff before, or doing that with Digital Dispatch, or was Freightwaves the first kind of chance to get that live kind of experience?
No, I was actually I worked in local radio for close to 5 years, and so we hosted 2 shows, or I wasn't part of the daily shows, but just because there wasn't frankly there isn't a lot of money in sports broadcasting, so I still had to work full time in addition to having a radio gig that gives you a lot of, essentially it gives you a lot of free perks around town, and you get decent pay, but it's not even enough for minimum wage, to be honest. And so from that experience, though, I was able to, let me back up. When I first started working in radio, I was honestly kind of scared that I would just be easily replaceable. I was just supposed to be on for one segment at a time, but they really liked me. And so they kept me coming back. And so I ended up becoming a full-time host, but I also worked that job for free for 6 months before.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Best thing to do is do a free job. That's
Yes.
great.
So, and that's really where I got a lot of my experience. And I think that's sort of a common theme with my experience is just trial by fire, just throw somebody in the deep end and see if they can swim. And so we, with hosting the shows, we were always out at different sports bars and things like that, hosting the live shows there. That also with the PGA Tour headquarters is also in the same area that I live,
Okay.
North Florida. So we were able to do, different like panel moderation, things like that. They, the PGA Tour would have something going on. The Jacksonville Jaguars would have something going on. So they would constantly hit up the radio station to have some of the radio talent come over and host those things, be an MC, things like that. So that's really where I got a lot of my live experience from. And then it also kind of got to the point where like I thought about, making sports a full-time career, but I needed to be on daily. And when that didn't happen, I just started going live on my own. I was like, well,
Good
they're
for
not going to
you.
give me the experience. I'm going to take it for myself.
Make your own opportunities. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So my touching of sports, I don't follow any professional sports. I have no idea how those things work. I will say I was a track and field runner and I ran the quarter mile. And I went to Mid-American Conference. I went to Western Michigan. I had a scholarship to run the quarter mile. And they called us in one December night and they cut the men's indoor, outdoor, and cross country teams because I learned nobody wants to watch adult men run in ovals. And so I said to myself, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to go work retail. And that was far more enjoyable. What has been the job that you've loved the most? And you can use the current job with Digital Dispatch, but what's been the one you've enjoyed the most?
I mean, I definitely have to say, in this part of the industry, over the last couple of years, learning about the maritime sector of logistics has been fascinating.
Absolutely.
So I definitely have to give a shout out for that because that I think there's just so many endless story opportunities, especially from a historical perspective. I'm really big into like studying history and ancient human civilizations and things like that. So that kind of ties in really closely with maritime. But I have to go back to the cart girl position. It really was so fun to just have, a simple area of snacks, some simple drinks, and you're driving around on these beautiful golf courses. You're meeting a lot of fun people. They're out on the golf. They're having a good time. It was still like service industry, but it was different from, inside of a restaurant dining where you have to be a little bit more proper. On the golf course, we were just having a good time, having fun, and you work out in the heat all day, but your tips are really good. And it was really great money too.
The only job I had where I worked outside was the Chicago Botanic Gardens, and I was a pond cleaner. And so I would be in rubber pants, scooping up seaweed and algae. And I did that every single day, all summer long. And I learned to hate the heat. I learned to hate it. So you're in Florida, which I have heard is very warm all of the time. Do you like the heat? Is that a thing you're a fan of, or do you like want to be with the snow and all the seasons?
No, God, no. I sometimes like with the start of football season, it's kind of bittersweet for me because I realize I only have maybe like 1 or 2 more months to go back to the beach. And so I think of the beach and like being outside and being in the heat is like my happy place. I know a lot of people when they walk outside and the humidity sort of smacks you in the face, they hate it. When I want nice hair, I hate it, but I honestly miss it during like December and January. That's only like the real quote unquote real winter that Florida gets. But I would say that I'm a heat all the way. I will visit the snow, but only for a very short amount of time. And I'm not skiing. I'm too scared to go like skiing and snowboarding.
Oh, that's good. You should be scared. That's very dangerous. The injuries you get with that are substantial. Not a fan.
I saw people getting wheeled down from the mountain with icicles in their hair on stretchers. And I was like, yeah, I'm good on that.
That's why I like the like, virtual reality. We got the VR headset from Oculus. I do all that stuff virtually. But Blythe, you know what? I'm sorry. I have to get rid of you. So I'll just stay by. Don't go anywhere. But ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited because we have a very, very special correspondent. Today, I'm adding Judge Rosemary Aquilina. Judge, you're on mute, but how are you?
Oh, there, I've unmuted myself. How's that? I am terrific. I've enjoyed listening to your conversation so far. It makes me want to go to Florida because I know our winter's coming.
Winter is coming. That's right.
It is coming. Always entertaining to listen to you. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing fantastic. I am feeling excited. We have November 19th due date, forced eviction of the twins. So we know we have this roadmap ahead of us. We have the cribs now. We have the mattresses. I have the dresser, not built, but we do have them. But we're getting closer to that stage where everything is ready.
I'm going to ask you to take this segment and a year from now, play it again. And then when the twins go to school, play it again. And now, like my twins in junior high, play it again every day, because junior high, I cannot wait for them to go to high school and to find their brains, because right now they're swearing, disobeying, irreverent, and
That's
it's
right.
tough, 2 against 1. Although, for me, it was 2 against 1. It'll be 2 against 2 for the two of you. But wow.
You're a judge. You get to make all the rules, right? Is that how it works?
Couple disappears at home. They don't care who I am. To them, I'm just mom. And they call the cops on me. I think I don't know if I told you that story, but my son, I took his cell phone away. He called the cops. He dialed 911, called the cops on me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh
so
my.
law enforcement shows up and says, is everything
What have
okay?
you done to your son?
Yeah. I took his cell phone away. So I said, Michael, your friend is here. And he said, what? And I said, come on in into the foyer. Your friend is here. And there was this big man in a uniform. And he said, I understand your mom took the cell phone. And Michael said, yes, my cell phone. And the officer leans into him and says, do you work? Do you do anything to pay bills around the house or for the cell phone? No. Well, let me tell you, my mom took my cell phone away too. It's a good punishment. Your mom owns the phone. Of course, Michael didn't like to hear that. So he said, don't call again for that. That's a good punishment. So the officer, this is my kids. Okay. I'm telling on them. So the officer leaves, and the officer does not know this. And of course, I'm at home. I'm not in my robe, and I can't hold my own kid in contempt. The officer leaves. He gives the officer the finger. I mean,
what?
Yeah. And I wanted to call the officer and say, hey, this is interference. Let's put him in the clink for a few hours.
Tortious interference right there. There we go. Absolutely.
Yeah, so more power to you. I bless you. I will say prayers for you and your wife every day. Not only for babies, but obedient ones.
I have been happy enough. My kids still think that being an attorney makes me somewhat of a magician. And so they seem to think that when I say things, I have the magical power to keep things enforced. So far, so good. They seem to be relatively obedient. But what else is new with you? We have to go back to Blythe in just a minute. But what have you been doing? What's interesting you these days?
Oh, geez. I'm in full swing in trials in court, and our docket's moving. Things are opening up. We are using Zoom a lot. And, there's really just the usual for me. I'm back to going around the world speaking and doing those empowering speeches and having that awakening for the world about your voice, informed consent, the things that people can and cannot do to you. Yeah. I heard your segment the other day on the non-compete. Totally agree.
Yeah, with Chris Jolly.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I've had those cases, and, non-competes, they're dangerous, but they can be overcome. They have to be reasonable. So if you have one of those and you think that your employer is out of line, get to court. We're used to hearing those things. And in Michigan, especially, they have to be reasonable. And if your employer is in breach of contract, you can break it. And really, unless you're taking trade secrets, I mean, what are you doing? If loading a truck for one company is really the same loading the truck for another company, isn't it? Because unless there's some trade secret of some gizmo they have to magically load the truck, it's loading a truck. It's not anything that, unless you're opening up the same company, ABC truck loading, what's the harm? If you're right, if you do right by people, your employees will stay and people will support you. But if you do that kind of non-compete, predatory crap on your own clients, I'm not going to use you. I'm going to go next door. I'm going to wait till that guy.
That's right. Let the market will decide. You'll go to the people that share your values. Well, I'll touch on before I let you go.
Bullshit walks, as they
there
always
you go.
That's
well,
right.
I'll leave off with is the idea of giving up consent. That is something that people need to understand. Like, your rights as an American are yours to give up. And when you consent, doesn't matter what they did, like, you've given up that right for being searched or seized or whatever. So I have always told clients, generally speaking, don't talk to the police. Get a lawyer. Always get a lawyer. right?
Yes.
There you
Yes.
go. Well,
Yes,
Judge
get a
Aquil-
lawyer. Make sure when you're consenting, it's informed consent, ask questions, and then don't offer information except your name, your correct name. People give
Mhm.
their wrong name all the time. And get a lawyer. Get a lawyer. They
go.
are your spokesperson. They're your savior.
Well, thank you so much, Judge Aquilina. It is always a pleasure. People can find you on. We have your LinkedIn. We have your YouTube. You have YouTube. Yet we have. I know you have Facebook. Do you use Twitter? Are you on Twitter now?
I am on Twitter, and you can always. I can give you the Zoom. You all can zoom in and watch court.
I'll put that in the show notes. Text me the Zoom link,
will.
and I'll put that on the notes for this episode.
Yeah, Wednesdays especially are fun. Emotion
Oh, that's
Day.
amazing.
And, we have jury selection on Fridays and trials during the rest of the week. So if you want to learn what's going on in your neighborhood, tune in. And I will keep tuning into your show.
Thank you so much, Judge. Have a great rest of your weekend. Take care. Wasn't that fantastic? Now, back to our regularly scheduled interview. What is your problem with Lord of the Rings? Why do you not like it? I think it's good. I think it's fine.
No. I love Lord of the Rings. It's this bastardized Amazon program that I have a problem with. That is a straight abomination.
All right,
Not to be dramatic.
Let's paint the scene for our listeners here. This program does not have the rights, the legal rights to the Silmarillion. So all of the Feanor and Ungoliant, the giant spider, all of these things, they're not able to bring them in. They're only using the appendices, if I'm not mistaken, from the main 3 books. So there are some differences, right?
Well, they had the rights to The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and the appendices for both of those books. And so from Amazon's perspective, there's been a lot of hype around this for years, ever since they bought the rights to it. Jeff Bezos is famously a big fan and has said that he wanted something to compete with HBO's Game of Thrones platform or channel. And so knowing
and we're not going to do spoilers. Real quickly, Graham has made a note. He's not watched these yet. So we will do spoiler free to the best we can.
Yeah, spoiler free, except for it's trash. 75 to 80% of it.
No. Okay. It is. There are some beautiful aspects of the visuals.
Yes.
New Zealand is spectacular.
Yes.
Great.
Hard to mess that up.
Absolutely. So let's spend some time for a moment and talk about. Let's just talk about some of the history of Lord of the Rings. Let's talk like what happens in the. If we can't do the movie, it's the show itself. We can talk about some of the things.
Yeah, the real things that happen, not what Rings of Power is trying to sell to the audience of what happened.
Graham, you don't have to leave. We're happy that you're here. We're happy that you're here. So don't worry. We're not going to spoil it for you. But in the Silmarillion, we'll talk about. So these are things. So the story goes, right? There is this place called Valinor, and who lives in Valinor?
It's all of the elves that live in Valinor.
And the Valar, which are kind of like the kind of godly things. Eluvatar, he's the biggest guy of all of them, the main dude. The Maya live out there, right? So we have all those people in Valinor, and they're like, I want to go somewhere different. There's this guy, his name is Melkor. What's up with Melkor? Who's he all about?
Melkor, and is it Morgoth? I believe
he gets that. He earns that name. Who gave him that name? Do you remember?
No, I do not.
Feanor. and why did Feanor do it? Because Melkor stole the Silmarillions. He stole them. He just stole those gems.
And what are the Silmarils?
Silmarils are beautiful. 3 of them. Made three of them. And they were supposed to capture the essence of the trees. I don't remember the names of the trees. But the trees, again, this is not spoiling the show, guys. Don't worry about it.
This is lore.
The show has no desire to follow the lore or legal capability of following the lore. But there's this giant spider, Ungoliant. And Ungoliant and Melkor make a deal. And they're going to take the deal. They're going to kill the trees. And then eventually Melkor is going to run away with these gems. So they kill the trees, they get the gems, and they flee to Middle Earth. And that is when Feanor makes the oath that binds all of his children for generations about all of them. There's so many great comments coming in.
Yeah, there are.
I'm so happy. Thank you all. Yeah. Oh, yes, Abby, the trees. There are talking trees. Okay, what are the talking trees called, Blythe?
The Ents.
Who's the leader?
The Ents and the Ent wives. I don't know that they have Ent children, but we did. We may or may not have seen them in this series.
Yeah,
so
you got to be paying attention. If you see moving trees, it could be a horn. I mean, that's what Bombadil's all about. I mean, that's it. We could spend the entire episode just talking about Tom Bombadil. I mean, we could seriously do that. He's
But
amazing.
the Ents are different than the two trees. The two trees are almost like the light of the I guess the light of Middle Earth that is bringing the sun and night to Middle Earth. Is that right?
Yeah, so the trees there were no sun and moon. It was just the trees, and that provided all the light. But that's why Middle Earth was so dark, and that's why Melkor, who was renamed Morgoth, goes off and does that. Now, Morgoth had two main lieutenants. He had Sauron, and he had Gothmog, and Gothmog was the Lord of the Balrogs. So everyone, I hope you're all taking copious notes here. Like copious notes, because it's really important.
We've lost them all already.
No, their eyes are open. They're excited. Their ears are listening, and they're like, "Tell us more of all these amazing characters." Why do you like Galadriel? Why do you like her so much? What makes her so interesting to you?
Well, when I first started getting introduced to the franchise, there aren't that many women that are in the Lord of the Rings, and that's where I got my introduction, was through the movies. And so through the movies, when those movies first came out, I was around the age that Harry Potter and what's like the vampire one that was around Twilight.
Yeah, my wife loved that. I asked her for updates. I didn't read the books, but I read the Wikipedias.
But around that time, it felt like Lord of the Rings was for adults, and like Harry Potter was for kids, and Twilight was for teenagers. So I felt like an intelligent adult watching these Lord of the Rings movies, which is ridiculous, of course. And so that's where there aren't that many women in Middle Earth lore of itself, like named characters. And so Galadriel was one of them. Arwen, of course, was another one. And so between those couple of characters, Galadriel I just loved her. I loved her ethereal look to her. I used to own her ring before I broke it, which is a really pretty ring.
We should talk. Okay, so briefly before we talk forward, so there are a bunch of rings that are made, and for anyone who's listening, let's just do the quick poem. One ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. So Celebrimbor with a guy named Anatar, who does Sauron in disguise. And again, this is in the books. They work together. They make a bunch of rings, and the rings were designed to control the elves. That's what the whole goal was. But the elves didn't really seem to be interested in that necessarily. So all these rings were made. There's a whole bunch of them. I think it's like 9 for humans, 7 for dwarves, and 3 additional ones. Mm-hmm. So Anatar and Celebrimbor make the rings, and then Sauron leaves, and Sauron goes off to his place of Barad-dûr out in Mordor, and he builds his one ring. But Celebrimbor's like, dude, I can make a ring. I can make a ring without having Sauron here. And so he makes 3 rings, and they go to the Elf Lord. So Elrond has one, Galadriel has another, and I believe one is given to Gandalf. Narnia, I think it is. I can't remember the name of the one Gandalf gets, but he does get the ring. So these are really interesting pieces. So what ends up happening is the rings. Why do the elves want the rings? Can you kind of talk about that at all?
No, I honestly have no idea. Why do they want them?
It's to preserve themselves. So what people need to realize, like, elves don't die. When they die in Middle Earth, their spirits go back to the halls of Manwë, and they are waiting there to be healed and brought back to life, and they live in Valinor. Humans, it's the gift of man. Some people call it the curse of man. Those Numenorians, they die and they go to some other special place. But the elves wanted the rings to preserve their kingdoms. So the first age was their most powerful. And then every generation, it gets a little bit less powerful. And the rings were supposed to help preserve them.
Oh, interesting.
But Galadriel refused. I mean, she refused the one ring. This is one of the really interesting things about Galadriel, is that she could have taken Frodo's ring, and she was able to resist it. And that's incredible. Incredible.
It's also with her character, and this is why I have such a problem with the series right now, is that what makes her character great is the immense amount of thousands of years of wisdom that she shows. She is the person. She's one of the most powerful elves ever in existence.
She saw the trees. That's a good point. Elrond never saw those trees.
And speaking of the trees, like, her hair was modeled, directly after the 2 trees itself, and her hair is incredibly powerful. So in the new show, it's just vastly different. And that's why I'm kind of like protective over her character, because I just think it's a really good example of how you can be powerful without fighting, without physically fighting. And that's really where her power came from. And for her to be able to get access to ultimate power and to still turn that down, at the time that she turns down the One Ring, she had been wandering in the forest and wandering in Middle Earth for thousands of years because she was so guilty about the kinslaying that she had participated in. And so she was really just emotionally damaged from that she could even play a small role in that. She didn't pick up a sword and fight other people and kill other people and kill trolls and things. She didn't do that. She's very much the educated
She's not
one.
Xena. She's not Xena Warrior Princess.
No, she's not. And that's okay. And I don't know why Rings of Power is pushing this other sort of a non-existent persona of her.
I will add to your discussion of her is that when she gave her hair to Gimli, she gave him, I think it was 3 strands. And for people who didn't know the books or didn't read the books, it still seems like important, but just to kind of back up, like the guy who made all of the Palantir, the circles that the spheres you can look into and communicate, the guy who made the Silmarils, Feanor, this incredible first age elf, he asked her for hair. And he's like, no, dude, no, I'm not doing that. And he made those things to emulate her hair. Like, this is an incredible woman, incredible character. I'm going to watch it. I'm not going to not watch it. Right. Okay.
Yeah, same. I'm still going to watch it. I'm just going to be mad the whole time. That just like I was last night. I was just mad watching it. My boyfriend had to console me at certain points. I'm like, that's not how it happened at all. And he's like, all right.
I turned them on. So it goes on 8:00 Central Time last night. My wife was like, okay, why are we watching this? I go, I need to watch it for my show tomorrow. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, no, it's research. I have to do it. I have to watch it. And so I did. And I was more happy than not happy, I will say. And I think second episode
the whole time. I was just begrudgingly taking notes about things that I hate. I took it all the notes up, prepared to read them off today.
Okay, let's turn the table for a second. Let's focus now on Game of Thrones. So I have this whole idea of a new world, a new thing back 200 years ago. So everyone's in the prequel business. What have you thought about this so far?
I've loved it. Loved every second of it. I think, the way I can tell with my fandom when it comes to certain franchises is what am I doing immediately after the show is over? Am I going to Reddit to check the threads and to conversate with people about it? Am I going to watch people, have a live discussion with it? And that's what I used to do with the Game of Thrones, the main series.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of, obviously negative energy around the final season. I didn't hate it as much as other people did. I did feel like it was rushed, but it's very tough to end a series that is arguably one of the best in television history. So there's already going to be a little bit of grief around that and how people deal with loss. And so I tried to, go into this series. I was extremely excited for one, just because you can tell from, different shots and different promo images and trailers on how a story is going to be conceived and how it might look whenever it finally releases. And I just felt the night and day difference, not to go back to Rings of Power, but there was really a true night and day difference between what Game of Thrones was showing and what little and the lack thereof of what Rings of Power was showing. Now, the advantage with Game of Thrones or with House of the Dragon is that these books are already finished. There's a start and there's an end to it. And they're written from a historical viewpoint. The Game of Thrones main series, the books that have been published already, you have the advantage of seeing the different characters from their point of view, different situations and how they're handling it and how they're thinking about it. With House of the Dragon, that book is just written from a historical perspective. So the writers and the showrunners have a little bit more leeway when it comes to how they portray that on screen. But I mean, there's a little bit of fan service in House of the Dragon, but I'm 100% for it. Just because it just makes sense from within the already established lore. And I think the casting has been incredible. The writing has been incredible. The pacing, the first episode right out of the gate, showing people, hey, we still got it. As far as like the shock value of some of the scenes.
Oh, that's the crabs. Oh, goodness.
But then the second episode goes right into more of like the politics side of things and letting conversations breathe. And that's where the beauty, I think, really of the whole Game of Thrones franchise really shines is that you feel like these conversations, even though it's taking place in a fantasy world, you feel like these are real conversations that people would be having
fleshed out
anyways.
characters that are not
Yes.
just two-dimensional. I have a very controversial question I'm going to have to ask you, but I can't
Okay.
do it yet. I have to cut you off. Ladies and gentlemen, every time we have the opportunity for a special correspondent to join us, I get excited. And today we have a brand new, very special correspondent, Samantha Jones. What is happening?
I'm doing great, and I have some really awesome news to share today. Well, I just think it's hilarious. So
I can't wait. What's going on?
All right. So I'm gonna start with this question. I'm gonna pose a question to you because I have a theory about this. True or false? Utah does have a professional football team.
Oh God, Blythe would know that answer, not me.
I know.
I don't know. Do they?
Unless I missed something, according to my Google search.
She's saying no. I see her in the green room. She's not. No, then no. Clearly not. They don't. Of
No.
course not.
So
I know that all
it's
along. I
football
was
season.
testing you.
We're starting football. Football starting.
Okay.
Utah feels left out, so they had to have something juicy going on in Utah right now to keep everybody just absolutely enthralled.
Absolutely.
Hi, Melissa. So they have come up with the Utah Cookie Wars, and now I picked this topic for you because it's a legal topic. You're gonna love this. You're a lawyer. This is about lawsuits.
This sounds fascinating, and I love cookies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you know Crumble cookies.
I've heard of them. Famous cookies, absolutely.
Right. Okay. Do you know Dirty Dough cookies?
I've heard rumors of Dirty Dough. What can you tell me about Dirty Dough?
Okay. So the name couldn't be more fitting, and I absolutely love they're called Dirty Dough because Crumble is alleging in a lawsuit that has now been made public that Dirty Dough has stolen information. A former employee has stolen documents and information, including 52 cookie recipes that Dirty Dough intends to use.
52?
Yeah. Apparently there's a lot of flavors of Crumble cookies. I mean,
oh my goodness.
I didn't even know. So what started, it didn't start this way. This is escalated. So whether or not it's true, we don't know. But the way it started is they sued Dirty Dough, and their allegations claim that Dirty Dough has mimicked their whimsical themes, rotating flavors of the week, and their boxes, I believe, presentation of cookies in boxes. Which Dirty Dough refuted strongly.
Sounds
said
good.
No way. We're a cookie company. Everybody's a cookie company. Cookie company is a cookie company. Of course, we change up the flavors a little bit. Yeah, we put it in a box, and so it just got a little bit juicier because now they've upped the ante, and Crumble is saying that they actually stole proprietary information.
There you go. Now we're talking trade secrets like Jacqueline was mentioning earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So if you literally Google this, it's like a thing. It's called the Utah Cookie Wars. And apparently Crumble isn't just suing Dirty Dough, but Dirty Dough, which I love. They're like, we're going to make this work for us. If we're going to get sued, we're going to get sued. And so they've made this whole, they're making a line of videos and comedic relief all the way around. They said they're going to continue to remain lighthearted through the situation and that they deny any serious allegations of trade secrets. So
that is fascinating. I urge everybody to follow this story. Though you shared this with me.
They made a LinkedIn page. I bet they didn't have one before, but Dirty Dough now has a LinkedIn page, and you can follow the drama on their LinkedIn page.
Oh, that is spectacular. So everyone, we'll link that here in one of the comments and show notes. Samantha Jones, I hope to have you back for more special reports on this issue and probably many more. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
That's how the cookie crumbles. And now, back to your regularly scheduled conversation. Let me ask you a question, Blythe. You and I both love socks, don't we?
We do. I can only wear them a few times a few months really out of the year, if we're being honest.
This is why Florida is such a dangerous place. I got these in the mail yesterday. Those
are rad.
Great Dane, great socks. What got you into collecting freight socks?
Well, I would say probably just noticing them at conferences. So I've been in logistics marketing for more than 10 years now. And this is famously an industry that is very slow to adapt, sort of new technology. I would say historically has been slow to adopt new technology, marketing tactics, things like that, even promo items to an extent. But within the last few years, we've obviously seen, the logistics industry sort of waking up as far as promo products are concerned. And so one of the first few conferences that I started going to, especially as I live in the state of Florida, so we kind of ignored COVID like 2 months after it started.
It never happened in Florida. That's what I
We were
heard.
shut down for like a month and a half. But so when I first started going back to conferences in 2020, I noticed that a lot of the giveaways were freight socks. And I thought that's super interesting because you don't have to worry about different sizing for socks. They're small, they're compact. You can fit them not only when you're traveling to the event and you're bringing all your promo items with you, but they're super easy for someone at the event to pick up and lightweight to throw in your bag. So I thought that
And they're
that's
useful
super brilliant.
too.
Yes.
It's not like a squeeze ball or a USB thing. It's a useful thing.
And they're comfortable too. Like if you have not owned a good pair of socks, it's a game changer when you do put on a good pair of socks.
Absolutely.
Like you'll never go back to the crappy socks.
I have now replaced, I would say, half of my sock collection with freight themed socks. I have maybe a dozen, maybe more. I don't know, enough. I have enough. But I want to be very clear here for everyone who's watching us, for both, and I will speak on behalf of both myself and for you, Blythe. We want more socks. We want you, business, to send us your socks. We will happily talk about them. We'll wear them.
We can be bought.
We absolutely. And it's a very reasonable price. We just want to have them all.
Right.
It's not
That's
that
all.
unreasonable. All right. So
Sounded a little devious with the Lord of the Rings discussion we just had.
just send us the socks, one pair to rule them all. No, we're not doing that again. All right, everybody. This is a time where you, if you'd like, to submit in the chat questions for Blythe or myself. I have a question here from Amy Jones. Where are the cookie socks at?
Good question.
Dirty Dough. I hope you're watching. I followed you on Twitter and I shared your things. Make socks with cookies and send them to Blythe and myself. I'm a lawyer. I mean, I don't know if that helps you, but I'd like that. Graham. Okay, Graham, we will message you separately. Reliance Partners, a great insurance company for all of your transportation needs. That's what I was going to do. And
he
Melissa,
had a great point the other day too. I used it in yesterday's Cyberly show about mentioning what insurance you use for your shipments, and that's a unique selling advantage. So I shouted that out, that tip on the show yesterday.
To that point, I want to build off of that because I think you're 100% right there. Your partners are your marketing friends. I mean, when you have your partners you're working with, you want to grow all of them because if they're growing their business, you're growing your business, and you can leverage their marketing and their techniques to help growing the company. So I love that idea. Every partner that you have is an engine for new customer acquisition. 100%.
100%. I mean, a lot of companies out here tout their technology, and that's great, but I think insurance is a big one. I think there's other technology solutions or other, I guess, affiliate partners that you could be promoting as well. And to kind of showcase that you have a well-rounded partnership when it comes to your offerings and that they're well thought out.
Absolutely. And this is, okay, let's go to this question, like the rise of social media influencers. I mean, I don't know if you consider yourself a social media influencer. I consider you an influencer. I don't call myself an influencer. I'm a persuader, maybe. No, I'm probably the same thing. But what have you embraced that moniker? How do you view that?
No, I don't know if this is like embarrassing, but I bought the domain freightfluencers.com. I haven't done anything with it, but I thought that would be a good sort of use case because it is, over the last couple of years. So I come from like the sports and sports entertainment world, and knowing how much the creators get paid over there or the lack thereof. And then seeing, B2B influencers, recommending technology and things like that, there's a real opportunity for a lot of folks, as long as you are somebody who, obviously you're a good person. If you're authentic in the things that you talk about, you're trustworthy, people think that, or believe that they can trust your opinion and your perspective. That's where the influencer part comes from. Even though influencer is kind of like an icky word, feel like nowadays. But the truth is there always been influencers. And so if
Absolutely.
you are in this space and you have knowledge to share and people want to hear more from you and they respect your opinion, then you should 100% be sharing your experiences and what you think about other technology within this space, other, and that's really where the influencer tagline comes from, is from folks within this space sharing what they like and why, and what tools that they use and why.
I would love to see your Freightfluencer website get put up, and you have Digital Dispatch as like the cornerstone, and then you have like Freight Caviar, and each of you guys, I think all these other people on this.
So we're each a brick.
It's a bundled package.
I love
and,
it.
And so you get like a 10% discount for all if you buy all of it, and then you get all these freight influencers that are pushing your brand, pushing your messaging, pushing the value proposition all across it. I will tell you a brief story. I bought the domain Freight Court because I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if I could get Judge Aquilina as the judge and people can dispute their claims through like a mediation process with her live on television or camera?
Oh, that's
or whatever.
awesome.
And I still have it. I haven't done it yet, but if someone wants to help fund that, I'm always looking to take handfuls of money to produce something that you want me to produce.
But I mean, it really, like, if you think about it, think about like podcast categories. There is not a supply chain podcast category, but think of the global impact, economic impact that this industry has on literally everything that is surrounding us. And there's maybe 30 or 40 people that are quote unquote influencers in this space, less than 100.
Well, Flexport made the list and I'm not on it. So clearly that's all that matters.
No, you just have to get people to complain on social media about it, and then you'll get added. It's great. Like, but it really, like, that's where the industry is really just sort of getting the footing underneath it, is having lists like this be created, having, a top 60 podcast list be created. And so it just goes to show, like, you can be a big fish in what feels like a little pond, but we all know it's not a little. Supply chain is not a little pond. And so you have the opportunity to really make a name for yourself in this space.
What I like about the supply chain as it's kind of become so popularized is that the way that you get a product and like how it's delivered to you, though, the product and the delivery mechanism are the same. Like that experience is all part of it. And so Amazon showed us that. Like, if they can bring the thing to your doorstep in the condition you expect it to be, they're going to win your business. And this has made supply chain at the top of so many people's, like, what is it? What is supply chain? And I asked Jason Miller this. He's like, Matt, no, it's not a supply chain. It's a supply web. I'm like, okay, well, explain this to me. It's all of these different things that are all connected, and it's everything. It's all the things. And as I've thought about that, even if we were to try to leave this industry, we're still part of it, because you can't. It is all of the stuff. Every retailer, warehouse, distribution company, trucks, trailers, vans, it's all those things.
100%. I love disaster movies. And so with each disaster movie, I'm looking at how they're organizing their logistics. Like, I want to, eventually I'll do a story on this, because I've been compiling this information from like all of these crazy, like, asteroid hitting the planet movies.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're a space dude. We got to talk about space too. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's the next topic. We're going to talk.
It's a little setback for space talk this week, but did they actually get Artemis up?
I have no idea. I've been following Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, and
it's been a rough week for content.
That's right. I have only
fantasy content versus real world content.
Forget the real world. All right, let's talk about space. What do you find so interesting about space?
I would say the humbling nature of it. I think, the most famous image, like the pale blue dot that, I forget, it was Voyager, maybe, the satellite that took a photo of Earth, and it's just a tiny speck on the screen. And then you think about that tiny speck and how everyone, everyone that has ever been in a history book, everything that's ever happened on planet Earth is in that one little speck. And I think that that's like the moment when you feel super humble, and, your problems that you're aggravated about for the day, somebody cut you off in traffic, maybe an invoice hasn't been paid yet or something like that. Like, all of those things just they just disappear when you see images like that. That's where I first fell in love, because my mom is a big space nerd. So she had telescopes sort of growing up. And so she would show us the different constellations and teach us all about it. And really, she would save money in order to buy like the Encarta encyclopedias.
Yeah,
She would
absolutely.
save money all year in order to get that
Like,
for us. And
we had the 1992
Yep.
Britannica Encyclopedia stuff. Bob Anno says Saturday for the Moonlight.
Oh,
So thank
cool.
you,
Okay.
Bob.
I knew it got pushed back, but I wasn't sure if it was supposed to happen Monday afternoon, I believe, and it got pushed back because of weather.
I just love like the scale of everything. Like the closest star, if I'm not mistaken, is Proxima Centauri, and that's like 4 light years away or something like that. And to get there, oh my God, I love this stuff. To get there with our fastest spaceships is 6,000 years. I mean, if you took like the scale is so incredible. And if you think of like Betelgeuse, if that star was just put in the center of our solar system, it would expand past Mars. Like the scale, the size, the age.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's humbling. It's
absolutely.
Not just from a size perspective, but also from a time perspective.
Yes. Oh gosh.
We are not even a speck in time, in the grand scheme of things. And so it puts life into perspective.
It's like in 1 billion years, our sun will have expanded and destroyed all life on Earth. And that's reassuring for me. And by 1 billion years, Andromeda and Milky Way will have smashed and collided, all that. But I think like there's a great opportunity for science fiction to make a story about civilizations, billions of years from now, orbiting a red dwarf. Because the red dwarf stars, those guys will live for trillions of years. They will survive because they're just so small. They don't have the same level of like crazy chaos of these big stars.
Is our sun a red dwarf?
Ours is just a regular star. I mean, it's just a normal star, a regular size, nothing crazy about it.
But
Red
when
dwarfs,
they collide, or how does it turn into a red dwarf?
So a red dwarf is just a really small star. So imagine Jupiter. If Jupiter was like, and again, don't quote me, I'm not a scientist, but like 20 to 100 times more massive, it could start doing nuclear fusion. So a red dwarf will do fusion, but they're just so small and they do it in such a slow scale that they just live for so long. And I just think that's amazing to think the most common star is the red dwarf. And these things will live for a long time, but eventually there will not be any new stars made. There will be nothing new.
That's crazy.
It'll all be darkness and entropy and all the things break apart.
See, I wish I could just know the history just right off the bat of like what happens, or just, what is it? The show that you could live for forever, had the sword guy. God, what is that show?
Oh, Highlander?
Yes.
There can be only one.
Where he like lives forever and he gets to see all these historical events. I want that, but the space version.
Well, so to that point, like that's what the telescopes allow us to do. Like we get to see back in the past, like that light that comes from 13 billion years away is 13 billion years old.
Crazy.
That scale is just so
we can't even wrap our head around it. That's how big of a scale this kind of stuff is happening. And we're able to see it, and we're able to acknowledge it and measure it and theorize about it. It's just endless knowledge opportunities.
My favorite space thing recently is the dwarf planet Ceres. So Ceres is an object in the asteroid belt, and if you look at it, it looks like a planet. It's a sphere. It's 25% of the mass of the asteroid belt is Ceres, but it's a dwarf planet. It's just, you just don't even think about it. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Okay, so we've talked about space. We've talked about Lord of the Rings. We talked about Game of Thrones. I got to know, why do you hate She-Hulk? Why do you hate that amazing, wonderful lawyer show?
It's such an awful show. It really is. And I told myself, I was like, don't get mad on this live today, because you're going to be talking about Rings of Power. He's going to bring up She-Hulk. I was like, we can't get mad, because then it just brings out another part of my personality that I don't think a lot of people know. They know like, the nice, talks about marketing and technology. But when you bring out the Jaguar side of things, the Rings of Power side of things, and then these garbage Marvel shows that are
brass knuckles are out. She's ready. She's got a knife.
It's just so not. I mean, they have to bring out all of the characters separate from her in order to even try to make an impact on the ratings whatsoever. The fact that she is talking to characters like the Hulk about her trauma that she's gone through, and it's like guys catcalling her, and it's like, he lost his whole family. He had everyone removed from his life for 5 years. He went to space. He literally saved the entire planet several times. The audacity of talking to your cousin like this And then also talking about Captain America in the manner of which she's talked about Captain America is downright insulting. I can't get behind it. I can't.
Oh,
She
man.
just doesn't have any sort of, you don't see with a lot of it's sort of an overall problem with a lot of, I guess, modern day female characters is that you don't see that they're instantly good at everything.
Yeah.
You don't see the
That's not how
struggles.
people are normally
That
like?
is not, that's not
Really?
relatable. It makes them unrelatable and it makes
Oh.
audiences hate them. And it
That's a
just
good point. That's a really good
establishes
point.
this unrealistic, I guess, idealism of what these characters should be. When in reality, the true origin stories, that's where the magic is, because that's where you see them getting knocked down. You see them fighting back. You see them going through personal struggles. And then when they finally get that reward, you feel that gratitude for them. With a lot of modern day sort of, I guess, superheroes, especially when it comes to female superheroes, they're just instantly good at everything. They
Yeah.
do not go through any kind of, real struggle in life. And they're just there. And I hate to call them like Mary Sue's, but that's essentially what they are. Give me representation, but give me the story first. And I think that that's where a lot of we're missing the mark. And
What I
Galadriel is another
Yeah.
example of this, where she has strength and wisdom, but you feel like she needs to have a sword in her hand to have strength. And I vehemently disagree with that.
Well, okay, here's what my read on She-Hulk at the moment. And I'm going to watch all of it. I think you're probably going to watch all of it too. So that I hope. It seems like being strong or controlling the Hulk aspect of herself, she can do that. But I find the struggle that she seems to have is the professional life. Like, how do you balance work and life? How do you deal with a managing partner? The struggles of being an attorney generally. And I hope that her adversity she faces is her professional life. And that's where we see her growing and struggling and becoming better and overcoming those obstacles. I watch it with my kids. So, I mean, there's something to that where like they're excited to see.
But then it's
another
like Meg
iteration.
Thee Stallion and her twerking in the office. It's like, come on. This is just so.
I
get
twerk
it.
all the
You're
time.
trying to be funny. I get it. You're trying to be entertaining, and it's falling flat. I thought this was supposed to be a little bit of a comedy, but it's just not funny.
I think Marvel needs to reach out to Blythe Brumleve. I think that might be the next step. I loved Loki. I loved Loki.
Yes,
Did you?
I did like Loki a lot.
What about
Moon Knight was
WandaVision?
great.
Moon Knight
WandaVision
was good.
and I thought I went into WandaVision with a lot of the same feelings that I went into with She-Hulk, and WandaVision completely blew me away. I've never been so emotional watching a TV show. Well, I would say a Marvel TV show. But that one had me in tears by like towards the end of the episode or towards the end of the season. That really, I thought that WandaVision was the first series. It's like, okay, we're going to try something new with Marvel.
Yeah.
We're going to go in like these different creative directions. And now it just feels like it's so formulaic. You hear from the people who actually work with Disney, and you know that Disney is just pushing these timelines and these insane
Content.
Yes, and it's so formulaic, and they're insane. Like a lot of companies, they outsource a lot of like their CGI, and that's another big issue with She-Hulk is that the studio that was responsible for this didn't have time to polish the CGI for it. And so because you're putting these impossible deadlines on these creators, you get a piss poor product that is now out in the world, and it tarnishes a character that is actually in the comics and is actually really good and really intelligent. And you're giving us this lame attempt at representation. And I think it's just BS.
Do you think that make this formula, the 6 episodes and then a movie, is the 6 episodes just like the marketing filler to say, don't watch anything else, just watch this, and we're going to establish this character. So when we do this next big movie, whether it's Fantastic Four and Galactus or Doctor Doom or any of these really great villains that I'm excited, I hope will be amazing. That's what I'm banking on. What do you think?
Well, I worry that, so I think about, like, I know this is anecdotal, but I think about like my uncle who only watches Marvel movies, and he'll watch them, as they replay on, network television and things like that. He doesn't have Disney Plus. So he went to go watch Doctor Strange in the theaters, and he had no idea that Wanda had taken this turn. He had no idea. And so it completely ruined the movie going experience for him. And then I also worry from the lens of, you can watch a lot of it. Marvel, the MCU is so vast, and there's so much going on that if you don't have the ability to rewatch these things over and over again, you miss a lot of things, and
That's
you
why
miss
I
a
kick
lot of
most
the
of my friends
connectors.
out. I don't need them anymore. I just need to have the screen to tell me what to watch.
Well, it's also when you think about it, the Disney Plus shows, they're not going to be showing on like a TNT or
That's
a
right.
TBS or any of these other sort of standard cable shows.
It goes back to our supply chain conversation. There's content creators, and then there's the method by which you receive that content. And Disney has decided, I'm going to be the pipe that you're gonna get all the things from. And if you don't want to do the pipe, you don't get to watch it.
Right. And then you're just kind of lost. And I watch it all, and I watch all of the YouTube videos breaking it down. And even if I'm having trouble kind of keeping up at times, I can't imagine the folks who haven't watched anything on Disney Plus and then go to a movie theater and are expected to know what's going on.
Did you watch Jessica Jones on Netflix?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't watch some of those Marvel shows that were on there, but now they're back on Disney Plus.
Yeah, they're going to bring him back. Like Matt Murdock, his Daredevil character.
Yep. I did watch that. That was great. That's
Punisher's
probably
awesome.
his appearance in She-Hulk is probably going to be the only redeeming quality about that show.
I hope he's like unregular. All right, we're at our hour. So Blythe, where can people find more about you?
You can, so this domain that I purchased that is actually live and has content on it is everythingislogistics.com. So that has, Digital Dispatch podcast, that has the Cyberly show, that has all my social media, everything I do is on that. So if you're familiar with Linktree, it's kind of like I built my own sort of link tree for myself.
Right.
So everythinglogistics.com.
That
and
is
I didn't even
amazing.
get to show you my pen.
What pen do you
now
have?
I am.
Oh, is that Gandalf?
It's the little version of the pen of the big one that's standing back
Show me
here.
the big one. I want to see the big one. You got to show us the props. This is a prop show. This is our variety show.
Okay.
Where did you get this thing?
My mom.
That's a
So
good
you
mom.
can see it kind of turning on.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
So it has a little
fantastic.
button on the side of it. I was Gandalf for Halloween a few years ago. And so my mom bought this as part of her walking stick collection. And I borrowed it. But she doesn't know that she's not getting it back.
I have a letter opener that is one of the swords. I think this is the one that Frodo used.
Oh,
I
nice. Is it Sting?
Sting. It is Sting. So I have that prepared just in case things go sideways. Well, I'm going to make you go. Stick around. I want to talk to you after the show, but you're gone. Blythe is done. We're done with her. I had an amazing time. I hope you had a good time too. I have to say thank you to everybody who makes this possible. And that is you, the people who watch this. Thank you for doing that. If you're listening to it, thank you for listening. We're trying constantly to improve and make this better for all of you. And if you have tips or thoughts, let me know. I also think there might be a path for me to collaborate with Blythe on something on these topics of these great TV shows we're watching. I think there is an appetite from the audience. But thank you to Blythe Brumleve and Digital Dispatch. Give her a follow. Look into what she's up to. It's fascinating. Thank you to Samantha Jones for the breakdown of those cookie cases. Very interesting. Judge Aquilina, always a pleasure. Great fan of what she's done. And her history is absolutely, it's amazing. For anyone who hasn't learned about her, check her out. She's fantastic. And then, of course, my dear friend, Abby Haffenbrettel, for the pump up today. That really did help get this thing going. As always, thank you for watching. Have a great day. And then I hit the end broadcast button. So I'll bring you back on. I'm hitting the end broadcast. It's going to go off.